We're going to wrap up a couple of the attributes left in the displacement area, and then we're going to talk about the multistrand properties. I've got lesson 24 multistrand opened up here, and let me actually turn off my camera resolution gate here. And we have a couple options down here. One is use instance objects, and we'll talk about that when we go into instancing. The other is active. Now, if I turn off active, okay, and render this, I'm not going to get my hair system, and that's an easy way to go through and turn on and off your shave hair node. Okay. Also, if I turn off the interpolate guides, what's going to happen is I'm going to get one hair for each guide curve or guide hair that I have. Okay, so it kind of looks like he's got little hair plugs. But as you can see, if I had every one of these is at a vertice, and that's where all the guide curves are, or the guide hairs. So with that turned off, interpolate guides turned off, let's go down here and talk about multistrand next. Now, what's multistrand do? Let's pull in here pretty tight so we can see. Now, with multistrand count turned on, watch what happens when I set this to 10. All of a sudden, I get 10 hairs around each one of the guide hairs. Okay, so here I'll take this back down to 1. Okay, and what I see here is, let me undo that real quick. Multistrand of 1. Here's 4. I'm getting 4 hair clumps around each one of those. So let's set this to like 30. There we go. And you can see we get this cool clumping, kind of like this gelled hair. Now there's a couple of attributes that connect this to the shape here. The first one is the root splay, which is the spread of the adjoining hairs. So the 30 additional hairs around each one of these guide hairs, how are they spread out? Well, if I crank this to 0, you notice how they all come in at a spike, so they're all generated from that root. Okay, and as I increase this, you see they get spread out more and more. Now you have to be careful because as you can see here, it doesn't look like it's coming out from the scalp. It uses this this initial guide hair and grows them out from there, or spreads them out from there. So let's crank this back a little bit. I'm just going to say like 0.5. It's a nice spread. Okay. Next, let's talk about the tip splay. Very similar. If I set this to 0, they all spike up real tight. Okay, and if I crank this up, you can see they get spread out, kind of wacky. So what's kind of cool is we can take this, let me set this to a very small amount, like 0.001. And the randomize amount here is just what it says. It allows you to randomize the amount of splay both at the tip and the root, okay, just to get some cool variations here. So I'm going to reduce that quite a bit. Now, just because we turned off interpolate guides doesn't mean we can't turn it back on. So if we turn this back on, it'll take it a second to figure things out, and it will generate this for us. Now, it may not give us a good preview, so let's render this. And so there we have it. Now, you got to remember, this is a almost 5-minute render to get this. But as you can see here, we do have the multi-strand clumping that we have, as well as the fullness of the hair. Now, there is a little bit of issue here from the root splay, and you can see that kind of floating out. We could use a displacement to kind of suck these back into the head and make it look like they're really coming out of the head itself. But now you actually have the volume and the all of that information together. So that is all calculated inside of this setting right here. And again, that's with multi-strand and interpolate guides. So you kind of have the best of both worlds. Now I only have 10,000 hairs, so that was still my preview setting, but you can see that each one of those guide hairs now had a whole clump of hair around it, and then it was interpolating all of that. So just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to drop this back down to 1 for the multi-strand, and that just keeps me easier to work with, but I wanted to show you where those properties were and where they live. Next, we'll talk about using maps to control exactly where we want that multi-stranding to happen.